Hi, I'm Dawn Combs with Pharm Notes. Today I am speaking to you from our Soda Farm Cafe here in Marysville, Ohio. And I wanted to add to a blog that I have just put out or will be coming soon for those of you who get this first. I wanted to talk about true chai. And this summer I had the privilege to go and teach at the New England Women's Herbal Conference in New England. And I was able to sit down with Shabina LaFleur Ganji, and she taught about masala chai. Here at the cafe, this is how chai will be from now on. And we want everybody to understand what the meaning is behind not just the health aspect, but the history here. So first off, I'll tell you that Shabina taught her auntie's version. So their family is doing chai this way. And India's a really big place with a lot of people looking at this from a lot of different angles. So you'll find chai being served in somebody's home that is of Indian descent that could be totally different from this. This is how Shabina taught it, and I want to honor her and her family. So I want to show you how to do it. First, a little bit of history. In the blog, I'll be giving you some specific dates, and I don't want to go into it too far here, but tea as a plant, Camellia sinensis, so you've got green tea, black tea, white tea, that's coming from a specific plant, and all the different types of tea comes from different processing of that. Tea did grow in India for a really long time, long before India was colonized. But in the late 1700s, it kind of came to a head here, and the colonizers, the British colonizers, were really pushing. They had been sneaking in cultivars of tea plants from China and planting them. And in the late 1700s, Assam was discovered. We serve Assam in our shop, and honestly, it was considered the tea of the oppressors. It was called the blood of Assam by the folks, the folks that were living there, because they were pressed into slavery to harvest the tea. And so, if you can imagine, this wasn't a really great thing for the Indian people. It wasn't something they were excited about as a health supplement. In fact, in Vedic scriptures, tea was not looked upon favorably because it was too drying, and it was interfering with the ability to absorb other nutrients. It was imbalanced. When we talk about Ayurveda, it is a goal to be balanced. Little bit of information there. The doshas and who we are foundationally comes into play. So if you've ever heard of Vata, Kapha, Pitta, these are temperaments that we are born with, and they roughly translate to traditional Chinese medicine with the notions of earth and fire and water, air. Those are really important to keep in balance in Indian medicine, in Ayurveda. And tea was very imbalanced as it was being used. So it was an oppressive drink. It was a symbol of oppression, and it was also a very imbalancing drink. The colonizers wanted everybody to be consuming their product, because if you're growing mass quantities of tea, you want to make sure that there's a market for it, and India was a big place. So of course we have to get all of the Indians drinking this tea that we're producing, but it wasn't something that they wanted to do. So the Indian people kind of took it back. They recolonized tea by turning it into chai. They started to add in their own spices to create a balance, and they added in the milk to balance all the doshas when you drink the tea and to allow for better nutrient absorption. And they took back their tea that had been growing long before the colonization had occurred. And this led to a lot of problems. It gave more, because you're using more of the spices and less of the tea and a true chai, it called more for the locals to be producing and less for the British tea to be used. So lots of turmoil around tea and chai, and eventually India won its independence and chai was theirs, and now we see chai in every little coffee shop. It's important that we understand the drinks that we're putting in our bodies and we're honoring where they came from, especially in this sort of situation. And so it's something that we should be drinking and enjoying, but when we drink it and enjoy it, it's important to remember what it means and how it came to be and to try and do it properly. So I'm going to teach you a few things that Shabina taught me. So I'm using cloves, cinnamon, star anise, and cardamom in the chai that we're going to have here at the store. And it involves a mortar and pestle. You're going to do the best chai if you grind these fresh every day, right before you make the tea. So here's a clove. I'm going to start with that. This is unfortunately, you can't experience this. And when I start grinding this, it's going to come up and just be gorgeous. It already smells wonderful because we source these sustainably and we source them fresh. So we don't have old, dead spices when we use this. So I am using about 6 to 7 cloves, and this clove has the ability to reduce all 3 of the doshas. So it's working equally on all 3 doshas. I should say that all of these type of bright activating seasonings that I'm using will increase the digestive fire, and that's an important process. Boy, we have a lot of digestive issues going on in the Western world. So masala chai can be a really healing drink if done properly. So I've got it in here. I'm just going to start tapping it so that I open it up. It's important that you have a mortar and pestle that has a bit, oh God, that's amazing. It's important that you have a mortar and pestle that has a bit of a grind to it. The glass ones or the super, I have all kinds of mortar and pestles around here in the shop. The porcelain mortar and pestles, those things are going to be really smooth, and it'll be difficult to get a good grind on your seasonings. Make sure you wash your mortar and pestle between each application. So you'll see, it's hard to tell, but I'm just getting some of those oils rising up as I'm grinding it. So the next thing I want to add is cardamom. Cardamom comes in these little pods, and they're actually a husk. So as I grind this, I'm going to add about 10 cardamom, and I should say I'm making about 4 cups of chai out of this batch. As I pop this open, you'll see what's going on really inside cardamom are these tiny little seeds inside the husk. Let's see if I can hold that up. That's what you want to get to, and you may choose to pick. Yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's a pod filled with all of these little seeds. You may choose to pull the green husk out. It's not necessary. We can always strain the chai later, and the husk can add its own benefit, but it is important to really break open those cardamom pods and then get at the seed and break that down. So it takes a little bit of work. I bust it open, and then I'm grinding. Already smelling amazing. Next, I'm going to add about a 2-inch portion of cinnamon. This is a cinnamon stick. So you could add cinnamon powder. There's no telling when that was ground. And we do get cinnamon ground fresh in the shop, and it's really flavorful and a lot of scent and a lot of phytoactive benefit. But you're not going to do any better than breaking open your own stick. Cinnamon helps us to metabolize, and it flips everywhere, so be careful. Cinnamon helps us to metabolize the waters in our body. So it's going to activate our digestion, it's going to activate our metabolism, and it's going to help us to metabolize everything that is part of the water portion of our body. Good for your blood, good for your kidneys, smelling amazing. So I am really working to try and get this to a powder as much as possible. I want, when we get a tea in the mail, we want loose leaf. So that's why we sell loose leaf in the store. We are selling the whole plant to you to make into a tea because we don't want that to break down and get oxidized while it's waiting for you to purchase it. But as soon as we want to use these plants, breaking it up, crushing them, that's a benefit because the more we open up all of those hard capsules and all of those hard barks, we're allowing more water to be able to get at all of the phytochemicals. It makes your resulting tea much more beneficial and much more flavorful. So you got to get it ground as much as possible. Every little large chunk is only marginally helpful here because the water and the amount of time that you're going to boil it is not going to break down that, say, the cinnamon bark. So it takes a little bit of elbow grease. I'm going to add 1 star anise, and this is adding energy and cleansing the body. Cleansing has gotten a really bad understanding in the Western world, and we have this notion that the body needs to be violently purged. It's actually a really old idea in Western medicine, and it's making a resurgence, ironically, in natural healthcare. We talk about now we're going to purge and we're going to detox, and it's not an appropriate idea. It wasn't an appropriate idea in the early 1800s of Western medicine, and it's not a good idea now. So cleansing the body is really about allowing all of the body's filters to work appropriately, the body to be able to shed toxicity that's in our food, in our water, in our environment easily. Okay, so I have a good grind here. So you're going to be able to see. Sadly, you cannot smell it, but you can see it. I'm going to add it to a pot, and it would be really good to have a thick bottom on here. It's not critical because you're not going to cook this for very long, but in our place of business, we're using stainless steel pots. I do advise you stay away from copper, you stay away from aluminum. We use cast iron a lot, and that's okay, but make sure that you're not leaching anything into this wonderful tea that you're creating. So all of this goes into my pot. I'm going to cover that with water, and I'm going to boil it for about 5 to 10 minutes, long enough to get into all of this beautiful volatile oils and all of the benefit that's trapped into these herbs. The next is, and I am going to use Assam, the next is Assam. After this has boiled, and farm equipment going through town, sorry about that. After this has boiled for 5 to 10 minutes, I am going to add what's equivalent to 2 to 3 tea bags of black tea. And so there's 1, and there's 2. I'll add the rest here. There's 3, 4. Don't add it like what I just did at the beginning, because if you add your black tea with your seasonings, the black tea will get bitter. So I've got a little bit in there. I'll fish out some of it. It's good to make mistakes on camera because I can remember to warn you about things. So you let this boil with just the herbs, then you turn off the heat, you add in your black tea, and you allow it to steep for another 5-10 minutes. At that point, you're going to add whole milk, and the reason why we're adding whole milk in our shop is the milk balances the kapha, and the tea, the black tea balances the vata, and the seasonings and spices that I put in is pulling in the pitta. And with all of those three parts of your body and aspects of different personalities balanced, we can absorb nutrition appropriately. Nothing is standing out and pulling us one way or another. It's very important to keep your health in balance. So we use whole milk. If you have a milk allergy and a really strong reason not to use milk, you can use another type. But almond milk just isn't going to provide the same level of absorption and dosha balance. So we'll be using milk. You add the milk until it looks right. Unfortunately, it's going to look right to you at different. Your home, it's going to look maybe a little more milk than me. You can add sugar into the pot at that time. Do be careful. Shabina specified that most Indian households are using sugar, cane sugar. Not a lot of them use honey for this. It is honey is more of a medicine there, so it's not used day to day as a sweetener. You can use honey here, but please only add it after everything has cooled enough that it's not cooking the honey. We will probably use sugar in this because it's going to be a better option and it'll be a healthier option, ironically. And it should be a light espresso color. A latte. I'm not a coffee person. It should be like a light latte color. If you stop into the cafe, you will get to taste what this should taste like. It's light, it's sweet, it's lovely. And when I sip it, I remember that the resilience of people and the need to stay in balance, and the fact that we can create supplements that are delicious over being medicinal. But when we drink, just like all of the sodas and the teas that we create here, when we drink something, the soda that's been created to benefit us, the tea that's been created to benefit us, we can enjoy it first. The benefit is daily when we find something that we love. If we focus on it as a medicine, we simply in our culture don't use it every day because that's relegated to an only occasional use. I highly recommend that you make a chai. If you're local, stop in, have a taste. We can do this hot or cold, but it will constantly be created and available in the back and ready to pour with the whole cow's milk and fresh grind every day. Check out our blog for a little bit more going into the details, going into the history and the dates and what was going on in India from the time Assam was growing without anybody knowing it, to the colonization to Indian independence, and how that ties so closely in with this drink. I hope you visit us on our blog, and I hope you visit us in the shop. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.